you kind of touched on it a few times, but I had trouble kind of putting it all together, trying to figure out what it is. So like when we think of Wiccans as being either dual theistic or polytheistic, like so with the O.T.O, like where would you kind of place it in that kind of the mindset? Is it monotheistic, polytheistic, dual theistic?
I'd say each individual is free to see it their own way.
Mm-hmm.
One text of Crowley's titled Liber Oz, which is basically the rights of mankind as he sees them. One of the first lines in that is, there is no God but man. And so we are each the center of our own universe. Again, in Thelema, we also say every man and every woman is a star. And so, even though I am myself the source of energy and power, there are a million other sources out there too. And every single one is different than I am, or different than any other one is. If you look at the stars in the sky, every sun is different than every other sun. And every system that surrounds that sun is different than every other system that surrounds every other sun. And I really like looking at it that way, because the world that I experience is not the world that you experience.
Sure.
I personally prefer to look at gods as symbols, as allegory. Or even, as you said about the sigils, they can hold energy because so many people have dumped their energy into it over time.
So then conceptually you're looking at angels, demons, gods as pieces of the universal energy, and how you're, even your own personal energy, and how you're manipulating that to perform what you want to do.
Yeah, I suppose. Some people can see it both ways. Some people even see, like, working with the Goetia, for example. Some people think you are actually summoning a demon, and, you know, other people think you're just tapping into the lower levels of your psyche. Regardless of which way you see it, it can be equally as effective.
Sure. So
really, we're just arguing over semantics. It really doesn't matter which way you see it, and each is free to interpret it their own way. That's what "do what thou wilt" means. And so, if you want to define, see, the O.T.O, even though we have a church attached to it, Thelema is not dogmatic in that sense. It's not like there is one true God, but it also does teach that there is one true God. But also that you are your own God, and that we can use various gods to achieve certain. So maybe it is monotheistic, polytheistic, pantheistic, dualistic.
Well, I think Crowley actually addresses this specifically in his book Magic Without Tears, because he addresses the idea of like monotheism and polytheism and all that sort of thing. And his answer to that was in his formula of 0 equals 2. So sort of positing that the universe comes from a state of nothingness, so to speak, but nothingness that can't really be comprehended, you know. But
that nothingness is infinity.
The universe is ended up created by a duality, so it's sort of like, rather than being, because even if you call the universe one, you're still asserting a duality by the fact that it's one thing. So in order for it to
it has to have another thing.
Yeah. So I think he sort of posits it, rather than Thelema being sort of specifically monotheistic or polytheistic or even pantheistic, he asserts that sort of 0 equals 2 formulas intrinsic to it, which I don't know if, you know, I could put that into a like.
I think the basic easiest way to sum that concept up is that the sum of the motion of the universe is stillness, or like,
which is actually a scientifically verifiable fact too, that if you take all the energy in the universe, it equates to exactly 0, because all the positive and negative energy cancels each other out.
And that's the 0 equals 2. So in order for something to understand itself, it has to differentiate from one thing or another, but the two extremes add up to that 0 point, that beginning point.
That's sort of the Kabbalic way of seeing the universe as well. Is that it starts at 0 and then it's 2, and then
it's 1 and then it's 3.
2, it's 3,
So I mean, Crowley was a Kabbalist. I mean, he was considered at the time to be a pretty good expert on the subject.
I think it's also the basis of quantum physics too.
And at Crowley's time, there wasn't much progress in
Well,
that.
I think that's when that was really
That was when it
physics
was
were
starting.
really,
Same with psychology
yeah.
too. It was
Yes.
really starting up at that time. So, I think he was a product of his peers, as much as he sort of had his own way of looking at things too. But my point is, things like Kabbalah and ancient mysticism do hint at things that quantum physicists are sort of getting at now anyway. These ancient mystics had these truths, and they have been passed down to us, but because of our secular society, we ignore them completely. We dismiss all religions as hooey because, well, I don't want to point fingers, but the Catholic Church has kind of ruined it for everyone in many ways. By saying our way or the highway.
Well, there's a lot of fundamentalists in any religion.
Yeah. And you know what? Even though both Thelemites and Wiccans claim not to be dogmatic, I find fundamentalists in those circles too. And many people are like, no, it has to be this way. Gardner said this. Crowley said this. This is the only way to see things. And I'm perfectly happy reading Crowley's work and learning from it, but if he says something that doesn't necessarily resonate with me, then sweep it away. Yeah, if it doesn't work, don't work. If it works, it works. If it applies to me, then that's great. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. And that's the bottom line, I guess. It's about understanding your true self, about understanding what your purpose is, and how to go about inducing that experience of the true self. I'm sorry if I'm getting too philosophical with it, because there are very practical elements to it as well. It's not purely theology or philosophy. But I think it's important for people to have self-discipline and self-awareness fundamentally. I think that's the major problem that we're experiencing with society. We were just saying people want an answer, but they're not willing to go about actually doing anything to get that answer. They just want somebody to give it to them on a silver platter. And with self-discipline, you can push forward, you can swim across that lake, you can achieve these things on your own. But without that drive to climb that mountain, you're never going to get to the top.
Because without giving something, people just give up and do something else. They just flip from one thing to another, to another, to another.
And sure, if I wanted to get to the top of the mountain, maybe it would be easier to take a cable car. But maybe it's worth the experience of climbing it myself, too. And these are things you have to figure out on your own. No one can tell you which way, whether to take the car or whether to climb it.
Well, the thing too is like, is it the destination or is it the journey that's the cat that counts?
Well, and many times how we get there matters. The journey matters. And again, I'm somewhat still new to this whole thing. I mean, I've been into magic for a long time. I've only been in the O.T.O for a few years, but I find as you progress further, there isn't an end to it. It's a constant journey. I mean, even if you are to, say, experience your holy guardian angel, it's not the end. Many people think it's the goal, but it's almost the beginning in many ways.
I'm finding that like the whole universe is based on math of fractals, and I find the journey is like that too. Once you find your goal, it splits off into more paths, and then
Fair enough.
I'm finding,
Yeah, it's
and it takes you deeper. And it doesn't take you in a different tangent. It takes you further inward.
Well, as I quoted Crowley there, initiation is the journey inward. It's not nothing has changed. It's just your understanding has changed. How you view things is changed. And the deeper you go in, maybe the tougher it gets, the scarier it gets sometimes. But it never ends, is the point. You're constantly journeying. There is no end to it. No one has the answer. No one's going to just give you, this is the answer to the great question.
Yeah, I think there's actually Crowley did write a number of these visions that he experienced. One of the most important ones is Liber 65, the heart girt with the serpent. And there's one little parable from that's where he describes himself as being riding on a swan with a small boy, and he asks, I can't remember if he asked the boy or the boy asked him. I'm kind of blanking on that. But whither are we winging? Like, where's this bird going, and why is it on this journey? And the response is no whither, no why, but just the joy of this endless winging. So it sort of gets at that sort of concept. It is like sort of the journey.
It doesn't matter where we're going. Let's just get there.
Let's get on.
Let's enjoy the journey there. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, that is so profound to the whole human experience. I mean, it's almost like we're just simply here for the experience of life and nothing more. I mean, it is